Carl, I just want to talk first of all about anything you can tease for not only season two, but Greaves' character. Can you give us any kind of insight, any little tidbits?
Wow, tease. How about tune in and do more than be teased? Tune in and watch. Um, no, it's so easy to give too much away. And all I can tell you is if you liked season one, my suspicion is you're going to like season two even better. There's so much more going on, some wonderful guest stars who've come in and become a part of episodes. The episodes are just larger and larger in terms of scope. The story is just as interesting, if not more so. And of course, The Mandalorian is doing what The Mandalorian does, and then we, of course, have the baby. The baby is back and bigger than ever in terms of presence, not size. We all love the baby. Cara Dune, of course, is back big time and doing all the stuff she does with both action and pathos. And then, of course, you have yours truly, Grief Karga, who is back and having fun doing what he does, being duplicitous.
Yes, I'm glad you touched on that because Grief is an interesting, complex character. We never quite know where his allegiances lie. Why is that so fun and fulfilling as an actor to play that kind of character?
Well, I know where his allegiance lies, Thor. I mean, couldn't you figure it out? It lies with himself.
That's right. Looking out for number one.
Yeah, exactly. Well, first of all, look, I love playing characters that have some complexity. It's not necessarily easy to write, and sometimes it's not necessarily easy to perform, but I think Jon Favreau did such a wonderful job. And then, of course, with all the nuance of the Star Wars universe says, Dave Filoni knows so much about Star Wars, all the details that are possible to know, has been at George Lucas's right hand forever. We wound up with a pretty good team. And then, of course, you have magnificent craftsmen, our DP, and all the people who do the effects on the show, and of course our editors, and it just goes on and on and on. It's one massive enterprise that I think personally just entertains the heck out of people.
You've had a lot of experience as well directing for television and various other projects, and you get behind the lens for one of the episodes in season two. Are you able to tell us which one that is, and how did that come about that you directed one of the episodes?
Well, first of all, it came about because I got on my knees and begged Jon Favreau, please, please, please let me direct an episode. And you know what? He said, if we have a season two, yeah, we'll take a look at doing that. And true to his word, he came through. He delivered. But directing The Mandalorian is a little different because of so much that are virtual sets. So you're walking through a world that when you finally see it is all there and it's magnificent. But we as actors are at times imagining what that looks like and what that's going to be. At other times we have these wonderful, wonderful stages called the volume where everything is 360 degrees and you have a ceiling, albeit it may be 40, 50 feet, but it's like the sky. So if things fly overhead, you can see them and follow them. Wow. But the basic part of, setting the camera and getting the coverage and talking with actors and moving through the story, that's, it's directing 101, but that sometimes is the most challenging part of it.
It's astounding to me that there's no actual location shooting. Like you're never in an actual desert or anything like that.
Well, in season 2, I'm going to give you just a nugget. They did go out on location for a couple of things. I mean, literally a couple. but everything else is shot at the studio, on the back lot, or on sound stages. And I would defy anyone to tell the difference. It's just that magnificent of what these computer-generated artists can do now. You know, I'm amazed by it, and who knows where, you know, it's going to all lead with being able to get scope in movies that you just couldn't before, unless you went out on location.
Yeah, and it's like you say, with those factors such as the cinematography, the production design, all kind of coalescing together, it just gives that incredible sense of realism, and you can't tell the difference. I want to touch on A New Hope, the first Star Wars movie that was released, you know, late 70s. How does The Mandalorian really get back to the roots of what Star Wars was, which to me essentially was a science fiction B Western?
Wow. Well, this group of stories, you know, this series is about the Mandalorian and his journey. So when he comes in season 1, if you remember, Grief Karga basically is putting bids out for this some bounty hunter to go and get what he wants. And he doesn't really tell them what it is. We find out, of course, ultimately that it's the baby. But the Mandalorian is one of the bounty hunters, the many bounty hunters, who happens to be available at the time and who gets the job done. So how he gets back basically is, you know, through that avenue. But once he's there, then there's so many interesting stories about the Mandalorian and that, no pun intended, that creed, the Mandalorian creed, and how they go about doing what they do. You know, it's all, I guess, it's all laid out without anybody telling you specifically, this is what's happened and this is what's going to happen. And, you know, this is what I'm doing now because. At the end of the day, I think the stories are just so entertaining that unless you're really, really like an uber geek, you don't necessarily care about anything other than what's the Mandalorian doing right now.
Yeah, that sense of immediacy, and it really lends itself to that episodic nature of the show, which I love. Will we learn a little bit more backstory about Grief in the second season?
Not really. I personally like the fact that he doesn't divulge a lot about himself, because I think in some ways, the less you know, the more interested you are in knowing. And Grief plays things pretty close to the vest. So I think that we in the episode I directed, we hint that there may be some ulterior motives in Grief's desires and what he's after, you know, his goals. And I personally think that's more than enough.
Okay, well said. I have to let you go, but one more thing. When Carl Weathers is just walking down the street, who do you get stopped more about? Is it Apollo, Dylan, Chubbs, Grief? I mean, what comes to mind most for people?
Very often it depends on the age of the person. It's kind of a demographic thing, you know. If people are over 40 or over 50, then of course they're going to, you know, they saw Apollo Creed in the ring the first time. And then you go to maybe somebody who's over, you know, in the 30 to 40 range. Well, Predator, you know. And then you go to somebody who is a bit younger, and it could be Happy Gilmore and Chubbs Peterson. And then you depend, you know, it just depends. And now, of course, because The Mandalorian is as successful, as big as it is, and again, it's the world of Star Wars, or the universe of Star Wars. Grief Karga, he's like the Dodgers were a couple of days ago. He's putting wood to the ball, you know. So I love it, though. Recognize.
Well, you're spanning all ages and universes, my friend. That's great. I am almost 40, so for me, it goes back to CIA got you pushing too many pencils. So
see, there you go.
That's right. Thank you so much for your time today, Carl. Really appreciate it, and great to meet you.
Pleasure, Thor. Thank you.
Okay, take care.
See you.